I had to go sit under actual investors doing what I wanted to do. They're where I'm at. How can I learn from them? Those kinds of situations. And then once I learned, okay, that's what I need to do. Now, who can help me do it?
Welcome to Multifamily Insights. I'm your host, John Casman. I want to thank you for joining us for another great episode. If you are enjoying this show and getting great value from this podcast, leave us a rating and review. We're going to get some honest feedback from you, and that always helps us make this show work harder for your investing goals. And if you haven't done so, make sure you hit that follow button, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss an episode. We've got a great show today. We're going to be talking to Bethany Finch. They say you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So if you want to grow as a multifamily investor, you have to spend more time with other multifamily investors. And an easy way to do that is to join our apartment investing mastermind group today. Just go to casmancapital.com and click on the mastermind button. Now, as a part of this group, you'll get access to expert trainings, group coaching calls, industry news and updates, as well as all of our webinars and workshops, including our 3-hour workshop on raising capital. Again, if you want to be around other multifamily investors that can help you scale your portfolio today and grow your network, make sure you're a part of the Apartment Investing Mastermind. Just go to casmancapital.com and click on the Mastermind button today. Bethany has over 27 years founding and running 4 separate companies: a credit hacking business, an executive rental business, a single-family residential renovation business, and a multifamily syndication business. Let's welcome to the show, Bethany Finch.
Thanks, John. Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and hopefully I can bring some value to your listeners.
Oh, I'm sure you will. Well, Bethany, I went over your bio at a very high level. Why don't you take 2 minutes and give us a little bit more context on your background?
All right. So I am literally like every one of you out there. I was born, right? We were all born, but my journey took a lot of different paths. So along those different paths, I've been an entrepreneur since I was 10, mostly because I grew up on the streets. So I was in and out of foster homes and different things. So I had to figure out different ways to make money. So I learned how to side hustle before it was a cool thing. And in doing so, figured out got some great scholarships, went to college, got a degree, went to corporate America, lasted 6 months. Hated everything about it. Decided, okay, let's go back to the business world, do what I know and do what I know best, because I wanted to be able to be home with my family. So that's what I did. And that's what started 27 years ago, was launching the businesses, figuring out, I don't like this one. Let's do this. Let's change this. Oh, let's get rid of that. I'm better at this. And they've just grown and ebbed. And we even launched the 5th one this year. I had 8, I'm down to 5, but the 5th one was our capital fund, because again, so many of our investors just said, Bethany, look, you have access to all of this. How can you help us get access, and what can you do? And so because of that, that's just the only reason it's grown all these years, was because there was more need and more ways to help others.
I love it. You talked about really learning how to hustle as a young kid, 10 years old, in and out of foster homes. That mentality has allowed you to grow and scale, succeed in school. But when you got to corporate America, realized it wasn't for you, lasted 6 months, went back to the business world. You founded 8 businesses, have 5 businesses now, and you continue to grow and help other people. Let's go back to kind of that transition period. You talked about, going to college, graduating, getting into corporate America, and then realizing the fit wasn't right for you after 6 months. Did you feel a responsibility to stay in corporate America, given that you had invested so much time into your education?
Absolutely not. And it's probably the biggest reason I was a trader. I told God way back in high school, the system tells you, work hard, get good grades, do this, do this, do this, and you can get some scholarships. Well, if you're in the right areas, if you're of the right demographic, if. So much of that was out of my control. So I basically just told the Lord, if you want me to go to college and you want me to figure this out, you better figure it out and provide for me. So he helped me to be in schools where I was usually the smartest one in the room, got in a lot of trouble. The teachers had to figure out how to keep me out of trouble. So because of that, they pretty much said, look, Bethany, they were straight. They didn't lie about it. College is a means to an end. What kind of work do you want to do? So they just were straight about it. And I said, okay, well, what's the most general thing that'll always find me a job? And that's when I said, well, business, accounting, right? If I can do those 2 things, I can do anything. So I got a full ride scholarship and got it as a merit scholar and got it all paid for. During that time, I was testing the waters of corporate America, working from several different very large companies and testing that out and doing some interpretation and whatnot. Kind of started seeing a little bit of what corporate America was like, but it wasn't 100% because in my mind, it was still, I was in a small town in Eastern Washington. It was still very sheltered. So when I went to corporate America, I went downtown Seattle, had the office, had the, corner, all of that, cubicle and all that. That's when I realized this is what corporate America is. And I don't do well with that. I need people, I need interaction. I'm not made to sit in a cubicle. I'm not made to sit and run crunch numbers all day. It was an absolute joy killer for me. And I didn't see a path for that. So for me, it was either choose happiness or choose a paycheck. Well, I could always figure out how to find a paycheck. So get rid of that and choose happiness.
I love it. I'm glad you're able to do that so early into your career, right? Because I think some people don't realize that until much later. Then they've got obligations, and then the risk becomes a little too much for them to make that change. But you're able to do that, when you still had the freedom and the flexibility to make that adjustment. When you did make that change, you talked about, well, I can find a way to make money. What was your thought process? I mean, what businesses did you start first, and where did you find that role and that opportunity?
So when I was in college, and then shortly after, I was working for one of the largest apple growers in the state of Washington, and they had 7 businesses under them. And so I got to see lots of different businesses and how they run and how they work. And obviously, all of that appealed to me. I liked that. I was working with people. But what I also saw was I was only going to go so high. I was already second to the owner. Where else was I going to go? I'm not going to own this company, right? So my wages are probably going to stay the exact same, right? He was a great owner. He would have continued to pay me well and that kind of such, but mentally wise, it didn't feel like there was an upward move. So when life happened, which it does, I needed to get out of Dodge and it was a time for a change. So I moved back to Seattle, which was more of my home area. I was there till I was 10. So I moved back to that area and said, hey, reached out to some of our clients and said, you looking for anybody? And they said, absolutely, Bethany, when can you start? And I was working for their corporate division right out of the West Seattle office. And I was going to be doing the contracts and things like that. So big, huge opportunity, tremendous value. And all I saw when I got in, the moment, it all sounds great and glamorous, like they making the movies. But the moment you get in and it's the day-to-day grind, I'm still back just looking at contracts. I'm still back just looking at a computer screen. I'm still back not, so it was like, only so much time of that before I realized at that point I didn't have any kids yet. I did know I wanted to be in a place where I could have kids, and that didn't really feel conducive. I was commuting over an hour to work, and because that's where I could afford to live, right? And so it's like, okay, I don't, none of this feels right. So when I step back and look at that transition, all I had to do was figure out, okay, what about it do I not like? Do I not like this? Do I not like this? Not like this, not like this. Okay, so how can I change those things to find something I do like? Because a lot of times when we're young, and I was young at that time, I think I was 22 at the time, um, we don't know what we don't know. And we don't even know ourselves. I really thought I wanted that whole 9 to 5, downtown corporate America until I got it. So when we step back and go, well, let me try this and see if my bills are paid, I have a place to sleep, I have food in the fridge, my lights are on, life is good. I learned that a long time ago. So at that point, I wasn't trying to save up for my kids' college, right? I was trying to make a life that I could be happy with. Um, so the transition forced me to look where work was. Where I was before in Eastern Washington, there was hardly any work. It was a very despairing, not growth area. Seattle was much more growth potential opportunities. So I had to look where the opportunities were. And if that meant to move, that meant to move. And trust me, I was more than okay with that.
I love it. I appreciate you sharing that background because it's so helpful just to understand the mindset and where you were and the way you kind of found an opportunity that fit what you were looking to do. Let's talk about some of the businesses, and in particular, when you launched your first real estate related business, what took you into that field?
Well, interestingly enough, we started, my husband and I have been in multifamily for 27 years. That's our background. He's always been, at one point, he had 5,000 doors, assets under management, all full blown renovations, huge construction budgets, the whole works. But then, and I was on the flip side of it, right? The contracts and the property management and all of those people and personnel and all of that. So then when I said, hey, I'm pretty sure we could do this on our own, he was just, there's no way. He was a perfect employee. He was trained well. He knew well. He was never trained to even think differently. So it was way too scary for him. So his solution, because he knew he wasn't going to like push me down in a way that was going to keep me happy. So his solution was, why don't you just do single family? And I'm like, I don't know anything about single family. I only know multifamily. And he's like, in his mind, this is how he was thinking. If Bethany fails, I can probably figure out a way to pay a $300,000 mortgage. I cannot pay a $3 million property. So that he's already out of the gate thinking I'm going to fail because he has no idea. He's not an entrepreneur. His mind doesn't work like that. He doesn't think like that. All he sees is the fear, right? That consumer mentality, the $3 million asset versus the $300,000. So I literally had to go learn single family. I had to go get some coaching. I had to figure out what I was going to do. And in the meantime, I just didn't tell him I was doing multifamily on the background. I just wasn't doing it here. So he never saw any of the stuff that I was doing nationwide. He only saw the stuff that I was doing here. So the whole time he thought I was just flipping single family homes. He had no idea. I was building the teams in our other markets. I was taking care of other stuff. He had no clue. So it was better that way. It kept us married.
And how long were you building this team and doing these deals?
Well, at the same time, I was actually doing them simultaneously. So I was flipping
Well, how
single
long
family
until he
homes,
found out?
4 years,
A year, 1 year or 4 years?
4 years.
Wow.
So he came, one of my goals that I set early on that, I was in my coaching class and they're telling you, okay, write down your goals. Well, I didn't even know what to think. You just don't know. So it never occurs to you that you can think much bigger and much broader. So I'm thinking they're talking about BHAGs and these big, hairy, audacious goals. And I'm like, thinking it's a game. So I'm just going to write, okay, I want my husband to retire and work just for us. And I wrote down 3 things. And all 3 of those things, I never saw that paper again. I didn't post it anywhere. I didn't do anything with it. And the second one was I wanted to be able to travel when our kids were grown. And the third one was being able to build a legacy for our families because we come from obviously very broken families and we wanted to make a difference, not just in our families, but in all of the communities that we're in. So by year 2, I had accomplished 2 of those 3 and I didn't even think about it. And somebody had brought it up from my coaching. Hey, Bethany, how are those goals? And that was because they wrote them down. I didn't even pay attention to, but they did. So when they brought that up, it made me step back and go, oh my, there was power in writing that down. And oh, wow, it did happen. So he came to work. He worked for us for almost a year. And then we hit the road. Well, once we hit the road, I couldn't hide anymore. Right. So it's, hey, honey, let's go down to California. Hey, what are we doing in California? Oh, we're going to meet some of our partners.
That's incredible. Wow. So you went ahead and did it. And it's funny because I was going to ask you, a lot of times you hear of couples where there's one who's more entrepreneurial and visionary and has this, the big dreams, and the other is maybe a little more reserved and, more of a W-2 employee and has that mindset. And a lot of times when they come together, it's one kind of dragging the other to invest. And we see it all the time, especially even at meetups and things like that, where one person just maybe isn't good with money or familiar with money, and they just have this kind of this challenge. And it sounds like you just said, I'm just gonna not tell you what's happening. I'm just gonna do it. I'm not gonna tell you. You'll figure it out at
So
some point. We'll have that
it,
conversation then.
how is that much different than if you stop and think about it? How many families, mom and dad go to work, right? The kids are doing their own thing. One of the parents is usually more involved in the kids' lives, and the other parent really only knows when the other parent actually like tells them or they have to be somewhere, but they aren't necessarily as involved. So they don't necessarily have a clue all the things. If mom was the one, say, taking care of it, they're not necessarily knowing that, oh, in 2 months so and so's getting their braces off, and they're not knowing. There's a lot of things that people really don't know, and we don't even think to ask until it affects us, right? So now we're hitting the road. It's going to affect us. I got to tell. I was
Well, there
feeding
you
him little bits and pieces
go.
along the way. Like when he started seeing numbers and when he said, well, what are we going to do about this? And what are we going to do about this? Oh, well, I was thinking we should, not telling him I'd already done it, right? You have to, unfortunately, right? I've been married, let's see, this is going to be 33 years, I think. I'm the one that doesn't remember, right? Um, and in doing so, we have learned a few things. And one of the things I've learned is I can't blow his mind right out of the gate. I have to feed it to him slowly, let him digest, don't push for resolution, and then let him come back. So that's exactly what I did. So that by the time we got to California and he's meeting these folks, he already knew.
All right. That's that's incredible. I'm glad. Sounds like it all went well and went great. I got a question. What happens if things didn't go well? Like, how do you have that conversation if
They
things didn't go well?
So they didn't many a times. And what does that conversation look like, right? So, like I said, my husband started this whole thing on fear, right? If Bethany messes up, I'm going to be on the line, da 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 da. Notice he didn't think if Bethany messes up, she's going to be on the line. Took that responsibility. So there were some losses, right? It's the part of doing business. And they weren't necessarily like big losses in the beginning. But one time in particular, when it's 2 a.m. and I'm still not home and they're all sound asleep, and I'm supposed to be at the airport in 3 more hours to get to a conference, and I've got a coaching call and I'm bawling my eyes out. What am I doing? And why am I? And it was all because I was terrified. I was about ready to lose $30,000. That would have been a huge loss for anybody, but especially at that point in our business. So I was getting so much negative Nelly from my husband. He'll tell you he was the worst supported person. I was completely alone. Him and the kids, they were all against it and against me because all they saw was it taking time away from them. They didn't see it any other way. They didn't see or understand, nor did they take the time to see or understand. And I was just too busy to try. I tried to talk to him, but it never went well. So I just didn't. Right. So then everybody just does their own thing. So you create isolation. So part of the time we think of when it didn't go well as a financial loss. Part of the time we don't stop to think about the loss of time, right? To my family, the loss of emotional connection and relationship, right? So there were those times and it was very challenging and there were consequences to them. And then I had to go back and try to repair those things that now, okay, can I explain this to you? Not that they're going to understand it, but that I would do at least show them I was trying and it was for their benefit. And maybe in time they'll see that and understand it, even if they don't right away. But those times did happen, trust me. It's not all rainbow and sunshine, right? There's definitely cloudy days. Sometimes there's monsoon floods, right? And okay, what's this one going to be like in the ulcers and the heartburns because you're still an entrepreneur trying to figure it out as you go.
Yeah, that's always the challenge, right? When you have those different personalities, because you see one thing when you're the visionary, you see the thing that other people can't see. And until you bring that vision to life, it's in your head and you can articulate it as best you can. You can put it in a PowerPoint, you can draw pictures, but it's hard for other people to see what you see, right? To have that confidence and to recognize the sacrifices that are being made for that vision. So I appreciate you sharing that and giving us a little bit of vulnerability into some of the things that you and your family have gone through. Let's talk about the businesses though, right? We talked a little bit about the multifamily side of it. So you have 5 businesses that you operate today. What are those businesses?
So we have regular single family flips. We still do single family flips in all of the markets that we're in. We still have our multifamily renovations where we'll buy an older property and renovate it and take care of it and things like that. We also have build to rent. So we're building large communities. So think horizontal multifamily. So they're all single family houses. Some may be townhomes, but not very many of them. Most of all of them are single family houses in a large gated community with the amenities that you would see at a multifamily. So just like horizontal multifamily, no one's above people, things like that. And then we have our capital fund, which allows us to diversify because we're in not just so many different asset classes, but we have so many good operators that we have worked with through the years doing amazing things that we all want to come alongside and partner with each other and help each other continue to grow. And as I'm constantly trying to teach people, look, you should be setting up a solo 401k, you should be setting up key principal accounts, you should be doing this, right? So that why? Then we can take and we can put those assets and invest those in other good people, right? Help perpetuate their business. I'm going to grow it tax free, right? It's going to come back. It's just going to keep, and then they do the same, right? So it just continues to reciprocate, and we can all lift each other up in a way that's actually sustainable, which is actually our core mission, is creating sustainable growth in every single market that we are in a way that brings honor and glory to the kingdom of God.
I love it. You talked about those five businesses: single families, multifamily, where you're doing more renovations there, build to rent, horizontal development. So think about horizontal multifamily, no one living up top, side by side properties. The capital fund, where you're now able to take this capital from other partners and work with people you've worked with over the years, and really find ways to invest in deals that you may not necessarily be leading yourself. So it gives you a lot of flexibility to get in different markets without necessarily increasing your own overhead with every single thing that you're looking to do. Out of all those businesses, like obviously we all love our babies, but which ones really gravitate, to you? Which ones are you most excited about and moving into the near future?
Well, if I remember right, John, you have a couple kids, right?
I've got two of them.
Okay, so even though there are kids and we love them to pieces, we have different phases of our kids that we love the best, right? Some people really love the baby phase. Some people, no, no, I can't wait till they're up walking and running and I can play with them. Or that kind of younger or older elementary and playing sports and things like that. No, I love it when they're in high school and they're fairly independent, but we can go to all the sports and things with them. And everybody is different. And the same is true when you're building businesses. You have different cycles of businesses. And one thing that the Lord is constantly showing me is that I have to be a better me if I want anything to grow. And to be a better me, I always have to constantly be working on me. And in doing so, sometimes He's revealing something that needs attention right this moment. And when He reveals that to me, it's usually because that's a part of a certain business or multiple businesses that I need to work on. So early on, like I would build one of the machines. For instance, I would build out the single family, create all the systems on it, build. Then, okay, let's automate that thing. Let's move along. Let's focus on the next one. Build, right? And then now I'm at the point where I'm simultaneously working on each of them, but in a different way, right? For instance, quarter one, we had transitioned with our capital group into oil and gas. And so it was mostly marketing and really reaching and educating, which is the huge part for me. I love teaching and seeing the light bulb go off for others. So marketing and educating all of them across those, not just my multifamily, because they're all investors. They all do things slightly differently into their own uniques. So for me, it's more, it's not necessarily that I think in the beginning, I always liked the acquisition and the idea and build. And then the day to day grind, I'm not so, it's not high on my list. And then, okay, now it's automated. Then I'm not even really rejoicing in the moment of, okay, now we're at that automation stage. I'm already looking for the next one. So I don't know if there's necessarily one phase or more than the other, but I am very much a big picture. Oh my word, we could go here and we could run here and we could, that kind of person.
Well, and that's comes from being that visionary, right? Being an entrepreneur since you were 10 years old. This is the way your mind is wired, right? To find opportunities, to find challenges, to attack them, and you get excitement and joy out of solving these challenges, not so much in the day-to-day execution of it, but in having that idea, having that vision and bringing it to life. So I love it. For someone who is like you, a visionary, they've got a great idea, but maybe they don't see them come through all the way, or they have a hard time staying on task. What's a tip or piece of advice you would give them so that those great ideas just don't die in their head?
Who, not how. Dan Sullivan. Um, that and traction. One of the biggest things, God's gifted us with different gifts, but He intentionally doesn't give us all those gifts. He wants us in community with others. So if He's giving you a visionary, like, can I do the day-to-day operations? Yes, but I don't like it. It's a mental drain every time I'm having. So if I'm in the office more than 2 days a week, I'm just like, okay, this is a bad week, right? But so others thrive on that. So I need to find my who's going to help me with that day-to-day operational part of it. So some of our earlier partners, that's them, hands over. I mean, that's their wheelhouse all day long. And I can trust them so that we can talk, but then I can leave it in their hands and then I can go do what I'm doing best. So always focusing on who do I need? You get the big idea, who or what do I need? Because sometimes it's a what, sometimes it's a tool, sometimes it's a class, sometimes it's you just don't know what you don't know. I had to go through training. I spent a lot of money educating myself. I had to learn from other people and other investors, not go to college and get a business degree. I had to go sit under actual investors doing what I wanted to do. They're where I'm at. How can I learn from them? Those kinds of situations. And then once I learned, okay, that's what I need to do. Now, who can help me do it?
I think it's so powerful when you think about that notion of training, because again, there's always this debate online about, is college worth it and things like that. And, you're someone who went and walked out of corporate America 6 months after entering into it. But that didn't mean that your education stopped. You continue to invest in your education. I heard you talk about coaching programs and hiring people to teach you how to invest in single families and being a part of different mastermind groups. So you've clearly invested into your training. And I think that's a really big and powerful insight for everyone. You should always be focusing on the education and finding yourself, surrounded by people who are doing what it is you're trying to do. And you don't have to do every single aspect of it. Find that who's your who that you can identify, or the what, if there's a tool or something else that you need to help you get out of your own way, and that's going to help you thrive and see success more so than just trying to do it all by yourself. So really great insight there. Bethany, you've got some great stuff. You've got a lot of different resources available as well, and different ways you can help investors. If you guys want to learn more about Bethany or companies, you can go to AmericanMadeHomeSolutions.com. Again, that's AmericanMadeHomeSolutions.com. They're also very active on LinkedIn, so we'll put a link to both of those on our show notes. Right now, we are going to transition to our round of insights. Are you ready?
Okay.
Bethany, give me a failure or an apparent failure that sets you up for later success.
You don't know what you don't know. I had a contract. I was visiting Savannah, Georgia. I got a property under contract for $2 million. Didn't know commercial properties should be under contract longer than 2 weeks to do due diligence. So I ended up letting it go, but I had reached out to the local law school to try to have them walk me through, hey, I want to turn this into student housing. I think this is a great idea, blah, blah, blah. So the moment I let my contract go, because they clearly saw I didn't know what I was doing, they scooped up my contract and they sold that property for $65 million to the school and basically used my idea. So it was a huge failure if you look at it from that perspective of money, but a huge win because I always do a better job now writing every single contract. And I always make sure that I'm getting the help in a way that they can't circumvent me now.
That's incredible.
So it saved me a ton of money.
That's a big lesson right there. All right. Give me a digital or mobile resource you recommend for your business.
Wow. Digital or mobile? already feel like there's too many apps and whatever on my phone. Digital. It seems like my team is constantly showing me something else. Bethany, have you seen this? Oh, we can clone you now. Oh, we can do this. Oh, we can. But then again, that contract thing comes back, and I've learned, beware. A lot of the AI apps and technology that are out there, you sign on the agreements that if you're using their technology, you give them rights to your intellectual property. You literally are signing over rights. So once you do some of it, they can keep perpetuating more of it and continue to make money off of you even without your permission. So learn that one, pay attention. So technology does make me a little bit nervous, but honestly, one of the best things in our business was getting a CRM, and we've progressed. Don't get hung up on which is the best and blah, blah, blah. Pick one, I don't care, pick one. You're gonna change it probably in 3 years anyway, so just pick one. And I mean, we've gone through the gamut, right? I've gone through RealFlow, we've gone through ActiveCampaign, we've gone through Basecamp, we are currently using Asana. It doesn't matter, HubSpot, we've used that, we've used lots of them, but the CRM, by and large, has come so much further, and being able to build out the workflows, and I don't have to remember near as much stuff in my brain now because I can build that all into the CRM. That has been a huge lifesaver for our teams.
Give me the book you've recommended or gifted the most in the last year.
10X is easier than 2X. And that's because I think people, just like single family, my husband thought single family would be better, but it is a whole lot harder to get contractors to show up to one house than it is to 20 houses. So 10X really is the exact same thing. So why not 10X instead of 2Xing? Because you're really doing the exact same amount of work, and it is easier. It really is. There's much more momentum, and you get better traction, and you get better support, everything about it. So everybody's like, oh, I want to do multifamily when I'm older, when I'm this. Don't wait. Start now. And if you see yourself in whatever path that looks, whether that's everybody thinks they want to be a GP. Generally, I don't suggest anybody being a GP right away. You need to be on the LP side because you need to see all the work that the GPs are doing. And then you may decide you don't have time to do that. So find somebody that's doing what you want to do and jump in, and don't limit yourself. Oh, I need to do single family. So just jump in. 10X is easier than 2X. You'd be shocked. You can go straight to multifamily. You don't have to follow the path that everybody else took.
What's a daily habit that helps you stay focused on your goals?
That's the easy part. Every morning, getting up, praying, seeking, recentering my mind back where it needs to be, because it gets taken off in so many different directions. So coming back to, okay, Lord, why am I here? What is my purpose? What are the gifts that you've given me? And how do these translate into whatever's going to happen today? So then in the evening time, taking the time, which is what I'm not really good at, to just celebrate those moments and be grateful. The gratefulness is easier for me than taking the time to celebrate. Being thankful that you got stuck in traffic because you later found out that there was a massive car accident that you avoided because you were in the traffic, or the fact that because you were stuck in traffic and couldn't get in front of your PC, someone else had your team had to figure it out. That's a massive win, because sometimes they didn't realize they could do it. So taking the time, beginning of the day, especially the end of the day, and recircling and kind of coming back, because the world pulls me in so many different directions during the day.
Give me your number one insight for being a successful entrepreneur.
Number one, honestly, digging deeper into yourself to find what it is you truly are passionate about, what it is that brings you joy. The moment I realized corporate America was not the place for me and I would have died on the vine, I set myself free from that. But I built my entire life up until that point on that. So that bubble was now burst. So I had to dig a little deeper. Okay, I was just trying to pay the bills. So now I'm just trying to do a job and I'm just trying to do this. But along the way, I was figuring out, oh, I don't like door-to-door sales. Oh, I don't like this. Oh, I don't like this, right? So giving yourself the time and energy it takes to dig into who you are. What makes you tick? What do you like? What are you good at? we're not all good at everything, and nobody is, right? But some people just get energized, and whatever it is that energizes you, those are usually areas that God's gifted you with, and they're there for a reason. So run with those, find a way to use those every single day, and it will build happiness, and you'll see how much more you can give back to your family because you're being true to you.
I love it. All right, let's lighten the mood. I don't really know where to go because I know you're in your RV all the time, but typically when we ask this question, we start with someone's hometown. So you can pick Seattle or somewhere else, but give me your favorite place to grab a bite to
Oh, boy, that's so hard because home feel is such a relative word these days.
eat.
Um, Honestly, pho, true Vietnamese pho, and it's usually a back hole in the wall place. There's cockroaches on the walls usually. It's not the cleanest of places, but the food is authentic and it's amazing.
Well, there you go. Sounds like definitely a choice with that authentic food there, and all over the country you can find some great places. Really enjoyed our conversation, Bethany. You talked about kind of your background and really being an entrepreneur at heart from a young age, really out of necessity, just trying to figure out how to make it right for survival purposes. Taking that mentality, corporate America wasn't a fit. You started your own businesses. And then I love how you talked about just kind of the dynamics in your relationship with your family and your husband, and knowing his personality and his mindset versus yours, and how you balance, pushing ideas or opportunities that you want to pursue with recognizing the resistance you're going to get. And I think it's what's interesting to me too is like you talked about in a way where he was always going to be willing to step up and help. So it wasn't like, oh, you got this mess figured out. It was always like, okay, what am I going to have to step into, right? So I love the fact that there's the support, even though it may not sound like it was support, right? But I love hearing
Yeah.
you talk about that dynamic, how you two work together, some of the lessons you've learned along the way, and how you've launched these different businesses, recognizing that you're a visionary. You love the ideation, you love seeing this idea come to
Mhm.
fruition, you love that initial phase, creating the systems and the processes and putting things in place. That's where you get your joy. Once that's settled, though, you don't get as excited about the day to day. So having that who helps you kind of keep these businesses thriving. So really great information. I think it was really great for us to hear the way you think about your businesses, the way you grow, and the way you've gotten to where you're at today. Again, if folks want to learn more, they can check you out at americanmadehomesolutions.com. We will make sure we put a link to that in our show notes. Bethany, thanks for being a great guest today and coming on Multifamily Insights. We look forward to staying in touch with you, and I hope you have a great day.